Welcome to Growing the Game, the podcast where we dive into the stories, both rising star leagues and people who bring the game to life. I'm Kweku, and today we're sitting down with Mr. Quintin Denyssen to talk about the grind behind the mic, the act of calling the game, and how everyone with the dream of a sports commentary can take their first step. Welcome, Mr. Quintin. I'm very glad to have you on my podcast.
So thanks so much for having me, Gorgo. It's great to be here on your show, and it's an interesting angle that you're taking. So that's really why I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah. We mainly focus on the aspect of playing where we don't see what goes around the court. So we want to widen our scope and share with our viewers what actually goes behind the playing court or outside the playing court as well. So
Yeah,
as you all know, you are the voice behind most of the games being played on the BAL level. We hear your voice at the background, and today we want you to share your journey and to teach the young aspiring ones about the world of commentary as well.
if I can, I suppose the whole point is that you ask the questions, and I'll answer them the best way that I can, and we're able to inspire just one person. That's more than we did before the conversation.
Exactly, that's the whole point. So to kickstart the whole thing, my first question of the day will be: what does the typical day look like for you as a commentator?
Lots and lots of research. The art of commentary also, and the strength of any commentator lies in the amount of work that you go do trying to prepare for a game. It's reading. You read from multiple sources. You look across trusted and maybe not so trustworthy sources because you're looking for insight. You're looking for news, and you want to speak knowledgeably about everybody that you think is going to be on the court. And I mean, there's no real secret sauce when it comes to trying to make sure that the people that you're going to be speaking about, you have at least three or four, maybe five pieces of really important information that you can deliver at the right time, because the art of commentary is you're narrating live sport. You're taking an event and you're providing narration to it, and you're trying to help people understand who the players and the role players are, and ultimately you're just narrating the outcome of a game. But that in that simplicity lies the art, and in that comes the work that we ultimately do when we are on air.
Yeah, that looks like quite a lot of work, and I must say kudos to you for the work you're doing. Moving on from the first question, the second question was: how did you first get involved in basketball commentary, and what led you to the BAL?
All right, so my journey, and probably the main reason that I am still involved with the BAL or involved in the game, is obviously I was a player. I represented South Africa at the highest levels from 99 to about 2011. I played All Africa games. I played three of those. I did five Afro baskets. I played in African Club Champs qualifiers. I played in the African Club Champs for the South African team. We, at that stage, were the only South African club team to make a quarterfinal first, right, in the actual Continental Club Champs. And when I got to a point where, I'd accomplished what I wanted to do from a representation perspective, and I captained the country, and I felt what real professional basketball looks like. I had a stint in Mozambique. Uh, I I I wondered what was next, because really loved the game, and our pro league was relaunching at the time. So when the Basketball National League was relaunching, I had to make a decision. I felt like I'd done everything that I wanted to do, so I looked at administrating a club, which we did. We administrated a team in the BNL for the first year. But while I was doing that, I also thought about getting involved in television. I wanted to be involved in it. And I thought I'd get involved in the role of like an analyst. Because when you watch, and you saw back then, you get the halftime show, and then you get the guys who just they analyze the game. And of course, because I've been playing, I thought, hey,
Exactly.
that's probably the easiest way to get the chance to bridge what I have and to take advantage of it, and I can learn the skills that are required to be involved in TV. I pursued, I knocked on doors, and when I got the opportunity only came in the guise of commentary. So they filled the presenter slots, and then they were like, "Hey, you're going to be doing this, and you're going to be doing it alongside a colleague of mine who we did the BNL up until to just last year, consistently." once we, I mean, once I got the opportunity, it was kind of like sink or swim. Truth be told, it was a lot more sinking than it was swimming, right? Because you're a basketball guy and commentary is, it sounds easy conceptually until you actually have to do it. And every time I do interviews of this nature, I tell people, hey, I apologize for anybody who had to hear me back then. It was, we're still learning our trade, but that essentially started the journey. So I worked on the BNL for Supersport when it started, and then that got into opportunities for radio. I did a show on a new radio station that had then never been thought of. It was a digital sports radio station, and um, I got the chance to every Friday just prepare, kind of like what you do, just prepare information. And I'm very passionate about continental basketball. So, I first tried to do EuroLeague, and I tried to do a branching, an all-encompassing show because I had 3 hours and you're trying to talk about basketball. But eventually I streamlined it to find something that worked for me, that was authentic, and I knew I could find a voice and I could be knowledgeable because, we all watch the game. We love the game. We consume the game as fans. So now you're a creator and you're trying to share your perspective and make it interesting enough so you feel you capture the spirit of the game so people can watch and learn. And
Exactly.
once I started doing radio, I started to understand more about my voice and understand how I can bring across my unique perspective and my style. And just, once you start to learn a little bit more about voice control and tempo and pace and just some of the basic broadcasting stuff that you can pick up, that made a huge difference, I think. And then we, of course, had NBA Africa games happening here. Um, they brought over the crew that does the current Indiana Pacers games.
Yeah.
So Chris Denari and Quinn Buckner are the two commentators, and I think they still do the games. I've heard Chris's voice there. That was a great moment because we got a chance to now actually engage with life and career commentators who do 82 games a day. They gave us real insight in terms of what preparation looked like. Showed us what the sheets look like, showed us how they go about preparing games. And I think from that was probably the place where I just started to understand the role of preparation in the way that you go about making sure that you're able to deliver. And I feel like that was probably one of the best stepping stones, the conversation and the understanding of process. Because I think I knew most of other things, but that was kind of where that happened. And then, so the BAL, that was a blessing, still is a blessing. Every time we get the chance to work every year because um, it's it's probably a very coveted job. I know there's people who want to do what we do and they'd love the opportunity to try and talk about African basketball. But so
Certainly.
just post COVID, we went into a bubble, and that was a very tricky time in the world, and it feels like a decade ago
Exactly.
right now because the world has moved on. But that's essentially where the opportunity came, right? And it was 9 games in the first season. I didn't do all of the games, and the committee team had Lance Blanks, who is passed on, and the rest in peace. Lance was a NBA player, a point guard for San Antonio Spurs. I mean, what was behind the scenes in San Antonio, but I think he played for Milwaukee. He was a recognized broadcaster. And Asher was part of the team, and so was Robbie. And we were put into pairs, and there were 4 of us, and the same on the French side. And I got paired with Robbie, and Asher got paired with Lance, and we went from there. And 9 games in the first season turned into a full booking in the second season, and since then it's been that. So I've been able to press across the career as a color commentator. I've developed into a full play-by-play commentator, and I'm pretty good at that too now. And you'll start to see more opportunities for those to come. And so as is the nature of a sportsman, as is the nature of a basketball guy, once you know the fundamentals, you can start to work on everything else. You kind of apply the same
Exactly.
mindset that you do as an athlete. Is that you have to put in the reps, and once you put in the reps and you start to get better at the reps, people will see it first of all, but you'll have the confidence to try because you understand that you've already put the reps in, and that's a very important part of broadcasting, and I think this is a very important part of life. First, you must understand the fundamentals and the system, and then once you've got that, you're able to grow and develop, and you'll have the confidence to do what you want to do in the space. I've always, even as a player, believed that my calling card has been work, my work ethic, and the ability to just take an opportunity and multiply it. But no one's going to outwork me. You may have other tenants that are going to be great, but work is something that we can quantifiably measure. That's not it's not going to happen. It allows me to work smart as well.
That's quite a journey for you out there, and you're doing an incredible job. Listening to you at games and stuff. When I watch the BAL games, I listen more, and you're doing a great job out there.
Thank you
But
very
moving
much.
forward from that, what is the exciting part of calling the BAL games? What makes the league unique compared to other basketball leagues?
Hey, I gotta keep going back to my calling card is that I'm passionate about African basketball. I'll tell you one of my pinch me moments, and it happens quite often, but I think one of the first, my first game was Al Ali versus Ferroviario de Maputo. And I played for Ferroviario, and
Yeah,
now I'm calling
Zambi,
the Egyptian Giants. So there's Zamalek. Sorry, it was Zamalek versus
Zamalek, yeah,
Ferroviario.
yeah,
The
Zamalek
Zamalek,
actually.
the Ferroviario de Maputo, right? And so now that was already a pinch me moment. But I think my real, what makes African basketball so special, or this is huge, is that first of all we played against Angola and Egypt, and I played against them on court, and I understand, and that's what gives the perspective, and I hope that I do give some of those insights when I'm commentating. But when I sat courtside and I did Petro de Luanda and Al Ahly in Egypt, that is like a damn, like this is a big time game. This is the best in African basketball in terms of club basketball, and the game didn't disappoint. But even before the game started, it was like, hey man, this is amazing because I understand it from a player perspective. I understand the work that it takes for the players to be there on the court, the pride that you feel representing club, and it's a little bit different because it's club and country. And then the second part is I I've now got the opportunity and the responsibility of trying to tell the stories of the players and the actual game on the floor. African basketball, at its core, is deep rivalry with a lot of skill and heightened passion. And I'm sure you find those same themes across all of the different countries. It's a little different here, and we've got clubs with long histories. Petro de Luanda's got a colorful history. These got steeped in history. These clubs are old. Some are older than 80 years old, and they still continue
Exactly.
this sporting club tradition. Some of the sporting club tradition is seen across Europe. So sporting clubs are clubs that have multiple sporting codes. So, like Petro's got a strong football team. They'll have a handball team. They'll have a volleyball team.
Yeah,
He
same,
has the same thing.
yeah, same system. Yeah,
That
exactly.
that's something that we have that's quite unique. But also there are examples because Real Madrid has a football team, has a basketball team, has this, and in some of the other countries in Europe, which also have great sporting histories and traditions that you can latch onto. Um, and so for me, when you say what is it about African basketball, it's that. But also I mean because I played Afro basket and because I've been around the game on the continent for 20 plus years, you get to tap into some of that, the competition, the legacy, the real skill and the pride, because these battles have been happening for a long time. Just now, we just thought we've never had the press resources to always capture some of the historical moments, even though the records exist, right? But
Yeah,
we now have people actually tracking what's happening. And so we start to build our own heroes. We start to really showcase the guys and give them a platform and an opportunity to shine locally and continentally. And in 5 years, the BAL has just been phenomenal. The growth has been unreal. And you see it because there are players' names that, and from their acknowledgement as well, from players' acknowledgement in terms of them being recognized on the continent, it's unreal. So league awareness has grown. I don't think before the BAL we would have known about leagues in Burundi or looked at the Kenya Basketball League the same way or focused in on what's happening in Senegal. A byproduct of this is what we're seeing from X-Ball, Afro ballers, guys like yourself, because now you feel like there's interest and there's a real responsibility from us to try and tell the stories. And sometimes we want to tell the stories in our way, and that's a byproduct of the work that and the passion that we all have for the game. And but also it's a result of what you're seeing, because these guys are inspiring us to go and tell some stories or to do some research just to find out a
Yeah,
little bit more about
definitely.
all of them.
Okay, so in every field of work, we all face challenges across the line. So, if I may ask, what is the biggest challenge you face as a commentator, and how do you overcome those challenges?
It's very broad. Commentary, and anybody who works in live TV will tell you that every broadcast is a challenge. So you have to prepare in a way that allows you to overcome whatever technical challenges may arise and whatever other political challenges may arise. I think the one thing that I is my favorite lesson in sports broadcasting is that when you do what we do, we are sports entertainment. When we do what you do, that's sports journalism. Now the difference is people are tuning in to watch the game. They're there to be entertained. When we talk and when we give narratives, give it around what you're seeing, just that. So sometimes there may be controversy surrounding a team or a player, but that's not our job. You get what I'm saying? Our job is core what's happening on the floor. Everything else that happens after that, that's sports journalism. Now it's your job to get into whether what the controversy is around the player, what the controversy is around the club, and if you want to uncover that as a sports journalist, that is part of your job. And the lines you want to take and the way you want to tell that story, that's it. So a real challenge around that is trying to maintain objectivity and trying to understand that my first job is to call the game, because people are if there is something there that's worth mentioning and it's going to affect the team performance, then that's worth a mention. But it's not the primary thing, because people are still tuned in. They're not looking for excuses. They're looking to watch their team play, and they're looking to watch their favorite player play, and that's your job ultimately.
Okay, that's quite understandable, and yeah. So, from interviews, from reviews of past videos and stuff, a lot goes into this sports broadcasting or sport commentating thing. So tell us, how do you prepare for a game? Do you study players, teams, or specific storyline beforehand?
Okay, the process from my perspective is um, I will go and first look at the team, right? And the team is always the teams are
Okay.
never the teams are there, but now you have to first confirm the roster. So once you confirm the roster and once you have all of the names, you individually go into each player, you research them. So you can see how arduous it is, because you pick each player, you
Hmm.
go, you try and find out whatever you can about them, and you start to build mini bios. Their bios include whatever interesting things you can find that you can put there, but also primarily stats, teams that have played for, where they're currently playing now, what the strengths and weaknesses are, if you can find that, or if you can find some tape on them, if you have the time to do that. You can't do that for every single player, but for the larger part, especially if you've never seen them play before, I mean, that's part of the mandate, is to go ahead and research them. So holistic research in that regard. And that's from all players that you're going to see on the floor and the coaches and then the club itself. Just try to find out as much information as possible. Put that in a put that in a format that helps you access that information whenever you need it, and then that encompasses preparation.
That's one of a hectic job over there, because do we what we even do go into details looking for research about teams and what is happening in the world of basketball? It's not an easy thing. To the extent of you going looking at individual players' profiles and stuff, that's really hectic. I can bear with you there. Growing up in the sports scene, or growing up as individuals, we all had influences, we all had motivations. So, who were your biggest influence in commenting, and how did they shape your style?
the funny thing is, and that was a question I asked one of my first years, when I got first little bit of broadcast training. My then mentor, she asked the question about, find a guy or a style that you like. And from a broadcasting perspective, the South African rugby commentator, a guy called Hugh Bladen, he did all of the World Cup games for South Africa when the Springboks were really popular. But his commentary gave extra color to the games, and the way he paced the games gave extra color to the games. So I really liked that, and his information was almost impeccable. When I had that, that was the first style that I liked because he never felt flustered. He always felt like he found the right words at the right time to describe the scenario, and his delivery was second to none. When you look at NBA influencers, obviously Mike Breen is the gold star and the gold standard in terms of broadcaster. Anyone who really watches the NBA broadcasters will know Mike Breen's bang and how he delivers that. It's a calling card, and they want to know when he's gonna do it. He's able to craft a career over just a four-letter word. But it's more than that. There's a lot of respect that he's earned. I like him. I like Mark Jones as well. So those are the three guys that I suppose I look at and I try to template and make my own style from because it's nice to be basketball specific, but if your broadcasting can transcend your sport and you can draw appreciation from other professionals who watch the game and just appreciate your craft, then I think you've really done a fantastic job at just being good at what you do.
So that's a nice one there. Moving away from your experience of commentating, let's go to inspiring the young or upcoming players or upcoming individuals who want to also take on this path as commentators or broadcasters in the sport of basketball. What skill are the most important for someone who wants to become a basketball commentator?
It sounds really crazy, but you have to know your voice. Your voice is the most important part of all of this. Um, you can be a great hard worker, you can have all the knowledge and the insights, but if your voice isn't pleasing to ear, it's going to be quite tough for people. And some people will tell you passion is the first calling. I guess passion is, but this is like saying, depending on where you want to go, a runway model, and you're trying to come in as plus size. There's only going to be so many places that's going to work, but unfortunately, you have to fit the template a little bit. And this is where, the first thing is, do you think you've got a voice for broadcasting, and then you can go and test that, and then you can start to learn the skills around that. Now, there's no quick way to learn the skills. That's the one thing that I will say. It's going to require opportunity and it's going to require your preparation, and then you're going to have to be prepared to fail. Nobody's going to be. It's like all things. Some people will be better than others, but nobody's great the first time around. You know what I'm saying? So be prepared to
Yeah, I
fail
get
and
it.
learn and study yourself, and then pick up. I think you can be your best critic sometimes, and as long as you're not gaslighting yourself, and you can literally, if you can listen to yourself, which is one of the most difficult things for any person to do, and if you can try to look at how to improve that, that's a great place to start, and that's a great place to just try and learn. Um, I've I've had the opportunity to help mentor quite a few people, and first of all, from
That's
being able
nice.
to being able to just pass on opportunity where possible, and then just to help guide process and show. And sometimes the show is say, "Hey, do this." I'm not going to be able to do the work for you, but I'm going to tell you what to do, and then you come back to me, and then you keep coming back. That means that you're interested, and then we try to see what is possible, because every day opportunity is different, and you never know what comes across anybody's desk because multiple conversations are happening all the time. Sometimes preparation is where opportunity meets luck, and the opportunity uh, uh, requires preparation to happen. You get what I'm saying? So I just have to keep talking about
Yeah, I get
preparation,
it.
preparation, preparation, because that's the biggest part of what we do.
So, from a perspective whereby someone has passion for the sport but has no experience, how does the person break into the commentary section? Where should the person start from?
So now you're asking me how to hustle. That you have to be a little resourceful when it comes to that. Like, seek out opportunities for yourself. knock on
Mm.
doors. If you know that the producer of a basketball production, go and knock on his door or her door until they give you an opportunity. First of all, know where the opportunities are and then start knocking on doors. No one's going to give you an opportunity. You have to go look for it. And that's just a lesson in life sometimes. The hungers, or they say necessity is the mother of invention. If you need to be a commentator, you will invent or you will find ways to make sure that I can go and secure this opportunity for myself. So the art of the hustle, and the hustle is probably the wrong word, but it's the right word because we're ballers. And go out there and go hustle. Go make your opportunities, go shape your place in the world.
Okay. Well noted from that angle. We know in this African society where education is paramount, education is key. And so most students or most of us go to school to learn journalism, broadcasting. Is it formal training necessary for someone to earn on a job?
Like all things in life, it's six things, six of this, half a dozen of the other. It's all a matter of perspective and desire, I believe. I'm fortunate because I do have a degree in media studies, which is not a classical journalism degree, but it is still gives me the background. It gave me enough insight in terms of what I'm doing. And I was when I was doing the super sports stuff, I got some additional training. But there's nothing like learning on the job. There's no substitute for experience, but the formal training does help structure your thinking around it. And even when you do the light courses, or if you're able to do broadcasting courses, the insights that you get in terms of how and when to deliver, the rules won't never change. The formal training is always advised because it will help you be more efficient at what you do.
Moving on, how important is networking in this industry and how can someone build a right connection?
Networking is important in every society. It's important in every job. And knowing who's in the room, sometimes you don't, but find out and start a conversation. This goes back to the other theme about hustling. And how do you find out who's important where? You start having conversations and you start seeking out people in a room. One conversation, they talk about the 6 degrees of separation. I'm sure it's not a lost concept, but 6 degrees of separation just essentially is a premise or a tenet that says that you're six conversations, or essentially six conversations away from the president of a country, or from the richest person in the world. And from that perspective, understanding that I've got to keep making those degrees of separation shorter, depending on what the goal is. Networking is conversation with intent and understanding what you're trying to get from a conversation in a room, but trying to meet the needs of the person who you're conversating with. So it's highly important. It's part of business and life, and it's part of relating and being able to speak to people. Without that skill, I don't think you're going to be able to seek out the opportunities that you want. And in order to do that, is just be a decent person and know how to handle a conversation and understand that it's a give and take world. For what you're going to require, there's probably going to be a pound of flesh. Well, when the time comes, you're probably going to have to either give and not take so much, or take and then give, and that's part and parcel of the process.
We know in life we all make mistakes and unexpected events do happen. So what's your advice for handling mistake or unexpected moment during a live broadcast?
Broadcasting is only mistakes. It's once you learn and once you know that this is live. There's no takebacks. The advice has always been, and as you know, as basketball players know, we fail forward. When you fail, if you're trying to learn to cross over, if you're trying to learn how to dribble correctly, they want you to go quicker until you fail. They're part of the process of knowing that you're improving is failure. And you must understand that that's also a part and parcel of broadcasting. When you fail, you'll know how to recover so that people can't hear that you've actually failed. But when you start and you make a couple of mistakes, people might pick up on it and tell you that you made errors, and people are listening in, especially the people who care. They'll probably be hitting you up on your WhatsApp at that time, just like, hey, Kwaku, we were saying, hey, that's not correct information or whatever. So you go back and you're like, hey, I've got to make sure that my research is a little bit tighter, or I've got to make sure my turn of phrase is the right one. or you use the wrong expression, or yeah, things like that. Those are the biggest errors that can occur, and eventually you just get better at smoothing it out and understand. You learn more phrases, and you learn about pacing and tempo, and getting excited and not getting excited. You know how to infuse passion and energy into your voice, and all those things take time. But the idea is always not scared to fail, but it's never a failure, always a lesson. And if you take that perspective, I think you never will fail because you'll know that just to don't fail the same way twice is probably the only way that you don't want. The only thing that you don't want to do is just to fail the same way twice because you're not learning. That means you haven't made the adjustment. It means that you haven't learned from a generic perspective.
Okay, so moving on to the last but one question. With the rise of digital media, how can aspiring commentators use platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and or podcasts like this to showcase their talents?
I think you answered the question with your question, but we're in a very interesting age, and one thing that's going to challenge our workspace and our industry is AI. Even from a voicing perspective, it's becoming more and more relative, right? And so trying to understand that realm is tricky. Where ChatGPT, Deep Space, Grok, Gemini, and wherever else, those platforms and those services are unreal. Everybody's worried about the role it takes in replacing human beings. So
Exactly.
you saw the stance that YouTube took this week in terms of clasping down and cramping down AI
Yeah,
generated videos. That they're no longer going to
generated
pay
videos,
for
exactly.
those, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's going to probably be some of the standard practice that will be utilized to protect jobs for the foreseeable short term. But it's not always going to be able to be that way because humans and we as humans now have got to find ways to make sure that we can identify as being human because the information resource that AI has far outweighs what we have. They can literally tap infinite databases of information, and that's what we use the PCs for right now. You get so we're
yeah,
in a
actually.
we're in a very interesting space when it comes to that. I don't have an answer for you, but the idea is, and the idea always is just speak with an authentic voice. If you have a unique perspective and you're able to put it out on platforms, you can organically grow in the space because you have an angle and your perspective is yours. No one has your background, your knowledge, your way with people, your voice, your style, and that is part of the appeal that you've got to lean into. And you've seen it on TikTok, you've seen it on digital media. People buy authentic. They don't. They're too polished and too superfluous. Chases people away. Sometimes if you're too slick for your own good, it raises red flags. And so the idea is if you're able to do that and you're able to knowledgeably just apply some small marketing principles to find ways to amplify your audience, it's a great start because you never really know where that can end. Because all it takes is one viral clip, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, out there.
But that is all built on, and sometimes that is all just built on understanding the fundamentals and being prepared for when it does come because you know taking the time like this to do a show like you're doing, you don't know where this ends up and you don't know what roles you'll be playing doing the
Exactly.
work that you do.
So my last question before we wrap up this segment of the Growing the Game podcast: what's one thing you wish you knew when you were starting out this commentary thing?
No, I don't live with regret. So I don't know about if I'd known one thing a little bit earlier, it would have made that big a difference. I think everything has been timed perfectly. This is the tying in with my theme of trying to fail forward. There's no one universal lesson that I can say, but maybe the one thing was understanding how much preparation is required because I can't understate that. You've got to put in the hours in order to come off polished and then just make sure that you can capture the magic as you see it and hopefully it translates for the audience at home.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dennison, and it's been great having this chat with you. And that is a wrap on an incredible conversation with Mr. Quintin Denyssen, from breaking down the act of commentary to sharing priceless advice on aspiring broadcasters. We've learned that the journey behind the mic takes just as much hassle as the game. Thank you very much, Mr. Dennison, and it's been great having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the platform. I appreciate it a lot. Kate.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for tuning in to Growing the Game. If you love this episode, share it with someone who dreams of sports broadcasting. And don't forget to follow us, like, share, and subscribe to our channels. And we bring to you another episode another time. Keep growing the game. Thank you.